The last word, the last word, Matthew, French.
Rosebud. Rosebud. That mysterious word that Charles Foster Kane, the fictional character in Citizen Kane, uttered. It was enigmatic to those who heard it and wondered what it meant. And it did remain a mystery to them. They never figured it out. But you and I, the viewing audience, knew all too well what this meant to a young boy growing up out in the plains in the snow. Before he grew into the greedy, avarice Charles Foster Kane. The last words we speak sometimes can have a lasting effect, fellow Toastmasters and guests. I hope that one day I don't fall into that rather humorous category of those who utter rather funny sayings for the last words they'll speak, such as the man who says to his partner, "Hey, I wonder what this switch does." Or the one who says to his buddy standing next to him, "Hey, hand me a match. I want to see how much gas is left in the tank." And we laugh at that and we understand the levity of it. But we think in terms of the last words of people that we have known. Perhaps we would say, "I remember the last conversation I had with mother or father or friends." And perhaps with somewhat of a regret that maybe the words we spoke weren't more heartfelt. They were words that talked about the weather or a sports score from last night's game. But had we known it was the last words we would have spoken to them or them to us, we would have taken more time to speak of things of substance. I often have the occasion in my line of work to give the eulogy at funerals. I preside over services, and sometimes I have the unfortunate task of trying to make sense of a tragedy that has occurred in the life of someone. I will sit down with families that want to paint a picture of the loved one who has passed on. And it may be with hazy hues that they paint it. They may show me faded yellow photographs that I will look at to get an idea that jogs the memory of those they loved. I may interject a few questions, but for the most part, I simply let them talk, because it is in this talking that they weave that tapestry and give me a plain picture of what that person's life was all about. Now, you may think that my fascination with some things may be a little odd, but think in terms that one day you and I will all be but a memory in the lives of those whose paths we have crossed. It may very well be that we will seldom remember the last words that we heard from them. But yet it will be the lives they live that will linger on in our memories. We may hear the name and instantly say, "Oh, there was kindness in that individual." The other side of that is, well, that person was a little cranky. The life they live will be that which is the lasting legacy for them. And I would like to offer for you my own personal memory of a man whom I spent many hours in classes growing up, from grade school on to graduation. But after graduation, I never saw my friend again until it was told that Glenn had passed away. I wanted to go to the funeral, and it took many hours and many miles to reach that destination, but I wanted to be there. In this situation, I was not going to be the one who presided over the funeral. I was simply going to sit in the back and observe all things that occurred. And what I saw was so striking as to leave an indelible mark on my memory. For as I sat in the back, I observed those who came forward, and I was struck by a family of 3 generations that came from Africa, whom Glenn, with his own money, a considerable amount, had spent to bring this 3-generation family over to America to live. And they sang in tribute to Glenn a hymn in their native African language. Then there was the elderly gentleman off in the corner who stood as they offered people to tell stories of Glenn, who told of Glenn coming over at his own time to fix that jalopy, which was all he could afford. Time and time again, Glenn would come over and fix that old truck. And then there was the widow who stood up and told how many years it had been that Glenn over and over would come and put Christmas tree lights up on her house. Glenn planted a garden for his community for those who would be hungry and gave them away free. Glenn also designed and implemented a peace garden where people could come and meditate in his community. Story after story was told of the life of Glenn Allen. And as I walked away, I was struck because I don't remember the last conversation I had with Glenn. I don't remember the last time that I saw him, though it most certainly was on graduation day. But the life that Glenn lived is that which will stick with me. And I thought to myself, when my life is over, will people remember me as one who was kind and considerate and always doing nice things? We all want that. Or will I be the one who was not so pleasant? A question I ask myself. And fellow Toastmasters, I hope it's a question that we all ask one another.